How we doing, everybody? This is Emerson Beery. I'm joined by Michael this morning. How we doing, my man? Good to see you.
Oh, good to see you too, man. I'm having a hell of a morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's early. I thought I was going to get off work early. I bartend. I thought I was going to get off work early last night, and these two guys just hung out at we closed at 9. These guys hung out to the bar till 11:30. So I'm not quite as fresh as I wanted to be, but still good. Ready to roll. Just got to get a coffee in me later. I didn't even get a chance to do that this morning, so we're gonna
Yeah,
get
I
a
feel like a
coffee
lot of
from
us,
me.
a lot of us are still kind of feeling that bit of almost a hangover in a way, almost like those two guys after last night's game, almost. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yeah, exactly. And this is a college man right here, so he's probably used to being up a little bit earlier than myself. Um, but yeah, my man, yeah, just jumping right into it. That was one of the uglier games I've seen in a while last night, especially for fantasy purposes. Gosh, I was doing playing some DFS last night, and oh man, it was just a nightmare. And the difference between me winning $5 and we winning $1,000 was apparently playing the Colts kicker over Matt Ryan. I'm just like, oh my goodness. And this guy didn't even spend anywhere near his budget. I just can't believe it. So I'm trying to get over that. But what were some of your overall impressions? Maybe starting off with the Denver Broncos.
I mean, I think the only thing I was really looking for, at this point, where else can you say on Russ? I mean, he's just not playing up to par. He's a streaming quarterback for fantasy at best right now until you see something different. But I went into the game, I wanted to see the running back situation. We're post Javonte Williams, torn ACL, LCL. He's gone for a significant amount of time. So we're looking for Melvin Gordon. We're looking for Mike Boone. Latavius Murray was inactive because he came over from London in 2 days. So neither shined. Melvin struggled, frankly, until the end of the game, really, where he started ripping off some 4 or 5 yard runs. But they didn't trust Mike Boone with the ball, really, all game. We saw Divine Rozigbo get some touches. So what that tells me is that Latavius Murray is going to get this work next week. I really think Latavius Murray is going to be the guy to own in Denver this time next week because Melvin didn't play well and they don't seem to trust him. They tried to give anyone else touches. They just didn't feel like they had the names available.
Yeah, and Mike Boone had 7 carries, 38 yards. That's decent, But like you said, nobody was supremely trusted. And just because Melvin Gordon's not carrying it away, I agree that Latavius Murray can come in and has a great chance to lead this backfield. You definitely, if they're still on waivers, definitely grab them. They probably got picked up already though. Yeah, and then just Russell Wilson. Yeah, 11 points. This has just kind of been the story of his year. I thought that he would get it together soon, but it just appears that it could be a longer term issue here. Russell Wilson has had years in the past where he goes half a year, with struggling. So I just don't know. I'm just not sure about this Denver offense, and I'm just less confident after today's game that they're going to be able to right the ship anytime in the near future. Melvin Gordon has 4 fumbles already, 44th in yards per touch and 44th in yards per carry. Cortland Sutton's had a nice year so far, but just still no touchdown. So that's really going to cap his upside, I think. Lots of targets, though. Jerry Jeudy, disappointing 3 catches on 8 targets, 53 yards is okay. I didn't expect Dion on the Colts side. I didn't expect Dion Jackson to have third. I didn't expect him just to dominate the workload. Philip Lindsay to get the second most, and then Nyheim Hines to completely be phased out. That was a big surprise to me.
Well, Nyheim Hines got concussed in that 3 or 4 plays in.
Oh,
Yeah.
see, I'm glad. This is why
No,
I
no,
didn't even get a chance
yeah.
to see that.
No, that's fine because that set the tempo for the entire game. Was honestly outside of poor offense was injuries. I'm with the IDP guys myself, so defensively there was a ton of them between Josie Jewell for the linebacker for the Lions for oh my goodness, I'm forgetting other names, but even Garrett Bowles broke his broke his leg, left tackle for the Broncos. It was just a terrible game, and honestly, it wasn't because of the offense, it was because of the injuries. But Nyheim Hines got concussed. The new concussion rule, he was staggered. He was stumbling. It was Tua-esque. The new concussion rule says that he's not going to come back in regardless of what the doctors say. So he was ruled out pretty quickly. But yeah, Dion Jackson getting the ball. He looked good with his touches. Matt Ryan was sure to compliment him as well after the game in the postgame presser because I was waiting to see everything about this game after. And yeah, I mean, I think we can call him the third string. And Nyheim Hines is possibly going to miss a game with that concussion. I mean, it's a 10-day, it's a long break because it was a Thursday game. So we'll see. And we'll see where Jonathan Taylor's at his recovery from a high ankle sprain. But Deion Jackson, the offensive line is just terrible. It's really bad. I think it's the worst in football. So Deion Jackson's a low-level starter, maybe, if everybody else is out, but it's not a good offense to really be attached to.
Yeah, I completely agree. See, I always hate it because Thursday night's the only game I never get to watch, and so I'm always just scanning for headlines at like midnight, and I can't even watch it at my bar anymore because thanks Jeff Bezos for putting it on Amazon Prime, and I can't even put it on the bar TV anymore. So thanks for that. So I'm always like these Thursday night games. I'm always just like, I got to scan through the stat sheet, got to look at Twitter headlines, but I missed that one. See, that's what I'm glad I had you
Yeah.
on.
No, so
Um,
you're gonna miss Giants Bears next week, man. What are you gonna do?
yeah, man, I don't. Yeah, whoever's making these Thursday night matchups needs to be fired. And then, but what are your feelings on Michael Pittman? I just don't. It just seems like I just don't know if this is going to be. People drafted him as a wide receiver one, and I'm just not sure he's going to get there this year.
I think the problem is the touchdowns. I mean, I think the problem is almost the same thing we saw with Cortland Sutton, what you brought up before, is he's just not going to get the touchdowns. I mean, he's a good player, and that's why his floor is as high as it is, because he's got the target share for, albeit a run first offense. But Matt Ryan doesn't have the ball, doesn't have the time to get the ball out, and when he does get the ball out, it's not always the best throw. So Michael Pittman's fine. I don't think we're going to get the wide receiver one numbers that we wanted. I know I wanted as well, but I think we still count on him as a top 24 guy, just based on volume. The offense has to get better throughout the year. It's a very young offensive line, so I'm hoping that maybe that gets rectified. They have new starters on each end of the tackles, and both got embarrassed. Like one of the worst performances by a pair of tackles I've seen in my short lifetime. So I'm hoping that all gets worked out over time. But right now, I think it's just a low ceiling type of guy.
Yeah, I completely agree. And but I do like Alec Pierce. He might be entering some deep league flex consideration. Another 8 catches for 81 yards this week. He's been fairly consistent. I think he's led him in points the last couple weeks even. So Alec Pierce is looking pretty good. I know a lot of people were ready to write him off, for Ashton Doolin, but I think Alec Pierce is going to be the wide receiver too, clearly in this wide receiver room. Just one other note that it's Albert Aquabunum, I think, is dead. I think he died.
Oh yeah. Oh, he is long gone. I had a
I-
I I had a small prop last night on a first touchdown for Eric Saubert, actually, because Eric Saubert's taking
oh,
that job. And I mean, first touchdown never happened because the touchdown never happened, but it it was, yeah, he took the job over last week. I think it was 77% of snaps last week. He felt like he registered at least that this time. They're rotating in Beck and Tomlinson over Alberto as well. I just say Alberto because I'm not even going to try to mispronounce his last name, be insulting. So he's dead. He's cuttable in all formats, honestly.
yep, completely agree. It does appear to be Eric Saubert's, his starting job now. So that is disappointing. I did draft Albert O in a lot of best ball drafts. Moving on though, just how about the Rams offense is another one that's kind of like in the situation that Denver's in. It's struggling. Lots of talented players that just aren't putting it together. The offensive line is struggling. Matthew Stafford is not playing great under pressure. He has I believe he has 7 interceptions this season to 4 or 5 touchdown passes. It's just can't get it together. Nothing besides Cooper Kupp is getting going. Allen Robinson is extremely disappointing. Do you think it starts with Matthew Stafford here, or do you think it's a deeper issue?
I think it starts with the offensive line, and that leads to Stafford. I mean, it goes both ways. It goes 50-50 with it, where the defense has done their job. The secondary hasn't been amazing, but they've done their job. So you look at the offense. You look at the offense at that point. Rushing attack is meh. It's okay. But then you look at the line, and the line's allowing a lot of pressure. That's on the offensive line, but it's on Stafford to deal with that. And he's dealt with it in Detroit. He's dealt with it in years past. But last year, he just had a much better unit, and that's what led them to a Super Bowl win, and they don't have that right now. And now he's throwing at a safety blank. He's throwing at Higbee on short plays. He's throwing at a Cup because obviously he will, and he's not moving from those two reads. And that's just so limiting for an offense when you do that, especially when Cup works the inside, Higbee works the inside, and then those outside threats are gone. I think Van Jefferson is so quietly important to this offense that they are missing it right now because they don't have any. No one can go deep right now outside of unless you want to try to take Cup deep, but that's not using his talents well. So they lack a deep threat, and Matt Stafford's not playing well enough under pressure. So I trust them to figure it out. It's still Sean McVay and still Matt Stafford, but it's not. He's not a lock-in, plug-and-play starter like we hoped he would be.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Before I give you a couple of my quick takes, I'm just going to pay a couple bills real quick. The Sports Gambling Fantasy Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is presented by WynnBET. Bet $100 at WynnBET and get $100 free bet. Head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WynnBET. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET to claim your free bet today. We're also brought to you by the SGPN Fantasy Football Podcast. They're giving away an autographed DeAndre Swift jersey and a merch store gift card. Get all the details by following them on Twitter at SGPN Fantasy. We're also brought to you by the MLB Gambling Podcast. They're giving away an MLB jersey as part of their Wild Cup playoff contest exclusively on the SGPN app. A little bit more on WynnBET. The WynnBET Casino is always open 24 hours a day where you can get a 100% deposit bonus up to $1,000. Looking to join WynnBET Biggest Winners Club? Whoever has the biggest parlay on WynnBET odds-wise gets a $1,000 free bet. Last week, someone turned $6 into $4,000 plus. They got a free $1,000 bet. WynnBET truly #GGens only. There's so much to choose from. All you have to do is head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WynnBET so they know we sent you. Offer subject to change, terms, conditions at wynnbet.com. Must be 21 or older and present in the state where playthrough WynnBET is available. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. So, I completely agree. I do think Matthew Stafford can get it together here. I have too much faith in those guys. That Matthew Stafford is only 33 years old. Maybe I'm mixing up him and Russell Wilson's age. Still early 30s. I just think Sean McVay is one of the best coaches. Cooper Kupp is fantastic. I don't know if this offense can function just like giving him a 50% target share. Tyler Higbee's been fantastic. He's been the de facto wide receiver 2 in this offense so far, and I was kind of big on him before the season, so I'm glad to see him finding some success. It's just one of those things, just like Jerry Jeudy. I do think if the offense can find a little bit more success, I think that'll just translate to Allen Robinson. He's not a transcendent player anymore where he can, force his way into the conversation anyway. But I do think if this Rams offense is really good, I do think Allen Robinson can find some more room. The running back room is so frustrating, though. What are your feelings? I just it just seems like it changes every week. Right when I was about to crown Akers, I think he's taking it now. And then, here we are again. Kind of saw Darrell Henderson get a significant workload. What are your thoughts on that?
I just don't think either of them are good enough to take the run with it. And that's kind of what we've seen through 4 weeks. And I don't want to overreact to 4 weeks, but the offensive line's not playing well, like I said before. And neither of them have done enough to take the job. And more so, neither of them catch passes. Neither of them are being utilized really in the passing game more than another. And that is the difference maker, where right now the ground and pound guys for a mid-scoring offense, that even if it gets to a high-scoring offense, they could fluctuate goal line carries. And we just don't have any defined roles for them where they're just alternating drives. And it's a 50-50 timeshare. And it works if they're running like the Browns, but they're still passing the ball at a high rate. They're not scoring every single drive. So it's just so hard to maintain a 50-50 timeshare for fantasy and be happy with it. But they're going to continue to eat into each other between that 6 to 8 point range. And if one of them gets a touchdown and you guess the right one, you might be okay with it. But until that happens, until one of them magically becomes Nyheim Hines and Austin Eckler starts catching passes, you're not going to be happy with it. And it's so disappointing because for years we chased the Rams running back. And Todd Gurley is still one of my favorite players of fantasy history. So it's just disappointing. And especially as someone who's a Cam Akers fan coming out and obviously the Achilles tear, but it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, I drafted a little bit of Cam Akers just because I loved the upside in that 4th and 5th round, just like you said with that Rams running back. I did chase that a little bit, but didn't overexpose myself. But I do have some Cam Akers, and I'm definitely disappointed. One offense that is not struggling, someone that I thought just maybe we need to readjust our expectations for, is the Seattle Seahawks. We were avoiding the Seattle Seahawks all summer in fantasy draft because we thought this was going to be a disaster with Geno Smith. What are your thoughts on players like DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and how they can be treated in fantasy lineups going forward?
No, I was completely wrong on Seattle. Playing simple, I think a lot of people were, but Geno's running the offense well, and he's doing everything he needs to do. And at the same time, I feel like it can't be maintained. I don't think we're going to get this for 16 games from Geno, but he's played well against tough units. So until that changes, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. So DK is going to be still going to be hit or miss, but talent-wise, he possesses that type of upside, like in a way of Mike Williams. Of some games you're going to be disappointed, some days you're not. And that's going to come down to whether DK makes a huge play or Geno looks to him. But the bigger thing I'm taking away from this is the tight ends, man. He's targeting them at a ridiculously high rate, and it's where all the touchdowns are going. Will Disley. Did anyone expect Will Disley to be a tight end one this year? Because that's what he is. And as someone who's ranking tight ends for the IDP guys, it is so difficult to rank him because he hasn't had a week with more than 4 targets. He hasn't caught more than 4 in a week, and that was his last week against Detroit, where everyone catches passes. It's just that he scored a touchdown in 3 of those games. And he's not a 100% snap guy. He's 60, 60, 70. Like, that's the range he's in because he's splitting with Noah Fant. Does he catch a touchdown a game in Seattle? Because right now he's doing that. And if he's going to do that, we all know for tight end, that's more than enough. So what are your thoughts on Will Disley? Because I really am trying to get a handle on it. And I'm curious.
It's tough. I trusted Will Disley in the past, and he's disappointed me. It's been a couple of years, but he had a really hot start, I believe, to the 2019 season. And I was like, man, is this one of the next guys? And of course, he ended up getting hurt, unfortunately. In the last couple of years, he's kind of been wrestling with Gerald Everett and stuff like that, and it just hasn't happened for him. So, just with this desolate landscape that we're about to get into, actually, on the next topic, it's just. I mean, it's hard not to rank him as like a top 16, 17, 18 option just because, like, man, who else am I going to put in there? I think Disley does have a little bit of upside, although, Fant's still there. And I know that they kind of do a little bit of a timeshare. And that's kind of my concern is it's a timeshare tight end, and that'll be tough for him. But if he continues this, he has as much touchdown upside as about anybody at this point. So I do like Will Disley, and I have been drafting him in some best ball underdog drafts that are starting in week 6. So he's certainly been a target for mine. DK Metcalf here, I'm treating as a top 20 wide receiver going forward, and that's factoring in a little bit of regression, I think, too. He has a 27% target share, 14 in air yards, 17 in expected fantasy points. Tyler Lockett, 26.4% target share, 21 in air yards, 22 in expected fantasy points. They're significantly outproducing their ADP and have been great values so far. Rashad Penny, I think, is going to be a little bit game script dependent. If they stay competitive, I think he has a good chance a lot of weeks. But I think you'll see a lot of up and down performances from him. On to the next one here. And just gives kind of a good lead in with Will Disley. Man, it's been tough on the tight ends. Specifically, I just wanted to talk about Darren Waller, George Kittle, and Kyle Pitts. Whew, this has been a tough year especially if you drafted those tight ends early. Is there any hope for these guys going forward?
I'm telling you, you can add PJ Hawkins this week before he dropped 40 last week. It was, 3 weeks away, and then everyone heard, and he just took over. But yeah, these mid-round tight ends not working out. And the one I want to focus on is George Kittle, because the other two are just not playing well enough. Or Kyle Pitts is playing fine. He's just not getting the ball because Marcus Mariota is not looking to him. But George Kittle is so interesting because he's still playing well. It just doesn't matter for fantasy because they're basically playing him as a left tackle. Do you want to let's play a little game here? I'm sorry. How many routes has George Kittle run through 2 weeks?
I thought I maybe had actually the stat written down. Oh, I don't. I'm gonna say that he's. I think I remember I was on his player profiler. I'm gonna say he's like 15 or 16 in routes run, but I don't want to put a firm number on that.
He's run 22 total routes in 2 weeks, 2 full games.
Oh my God, that's worse than I thought.
That's the problem. That's the problem is opportunity where I can confidently say George Kittle might be able to get it done with 22 routes, but he hasn't yet because you're counting on him to do an outlandish thing. And it's working for the 49ers. The 49ers lost Trent Williams as well a couple weeks ago to the ankle. So they're going to use him in the run game. And I'm hoping that balances out, but they have Ayuk, they have Debo, they like Jawan Jennings as a blocker. It's working for them right now, and I'm worried that they're not going to change it. So he's another person that's tough for me to rank because you're still probably going to start him given how bad tight end is. But I've slid him to the low end tight end 1 range, and that's kind of what I'm going to treat him as.
Yeah, it's been tough. I didn't draft a ton of George Kittle, and even last year, this is kind of just a microcosm of how he's been used in the past. And he's blocking a ton this year, but he's blocked in the past more than you wanted to. San Francisco's a low volume passing offense, so that kind of caps him right there. 37.6% of his 2021 production last year came in 2 games, where he scored 30 plus PPR points in those games. So he's just a boom or bust guy, and I think that boom is coming, but it doesn't make up for the 6 or 7 weeks that he's not giving you that. So I just think it's time. Yeah, we move George Kittle down. He's not in that Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews range. It's not even close anymore. I mean, he's fine. I think, you can treat him in that next tier, in those mid rounds, 6th, 7th, 8th round going forward, maybe even next year. Maybe he can even be a value pick next year. He's still relatively young. I just don't think he's in that elite fantasy. He's a great real life tight end, but that just doesn't sometimes translate to the NFL. On Darren Waller, on the other hand, he's not having that problem. He's 5th in routes run, but he's only had 5.3 PPR points the last 2 weeks. And I wrote an article on him in the offseason that he actually only averaged 11.3 points per game in 2021. It's just he's like, he's going to have some boom weeks. He's very talented, but it's just, a lot of these tight ends just aren't consistent. It's, Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews are kind of unicorns in the sense that their utilization every week. But the rest of the guys, sometimes they're part of the game plan, sometimes they're not. So, I'm just not big. I'm going forward. I'm either going to draft Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews next year, or I'm just not going to draft a tight end until way, way later. Is that how you kind of feel?
Yeah. That's also I felt going to say, I won't lie. I did take some chances on George Kittle. I was really counting, and I think obviously the injury also stunted that and made me the 2-week blow hurt even more. But yeah, Darren Waller, it's just not. He's going to have to score, and the Raiders' offense is not moving the ball well enough right now. Now that could change. First-year head coach for them in that system, a lot of new pieces. Maybe it's just gelling. They lost Hunter Renfrow or somebody that will move the ball, and maybe that gets Waller closer to a touchdown. He's only scored 1 through 4 weeks, so maybe it gets better. The targets are still not terrible for a tight end. What he's commanding right now, what is he? He's got 6, 8, 5, and 5. It's not amazing, but if you can grab a touchdown along with those, and along with what Darren Waller can do with the ball in his hands, it's not bad. But Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow, to me, and the emergence of Matt Collins is just, that's the difference. Renfrow's missed a couple of weeks, but you have 2 wide receivers that I was looking to, and that didn't really happen years past. It was Waller and then everyone else.
Yeah, it's tough. Darren Waller's just somebody I haven't been on, so I haven't felt that disappointment
I haven't either,
this year. Yeah, but George Kittle is someone I felt that disappointment a little bit. Kyle Pitts, man, he's going to get it together. I'm not even going to dive into that too much. He's going to get it together, man. This offense, this quarterback, it's going to have to be, I think, maybe in 2023 when they draft their top 5 first-round quarterback. But before we dive into the Underdog DFS, which is why we're here, I'm going to jump into a few more ad reads. If you watch football, you need Fubo TV. Fubo TV gives you complete coverage of college and pro football with NFL Red Zone plus games at 4K at no extra charge. Watch on all your devices and never miss a game or an episode of your favorite shows with the included cloud-based DVR. Plus, there's no contract, no commitment, and you can cancel at any time. Right now, you can try Fubo TV for 7 days and get 15% off your first month. Just go to FuboTV.com/SGP. That's FUBOTV.com/SGP. You ever wish that before every NFL game you could get up-to-date and accurate information before placing bets or locking in your fantasy lineups? Well, now you can with the Elias Game Plan app. Whether you're part of a fantasy tournament, placing bets, or just a huge sports fan and stats nerd, Elias Game Plan has everything that you need. It's all backed by their renowned research team. And now with their chat feature, you can talk to them directly and receive the information you need to back your big decisions on betting on your fantasy football league. Plus, their newly added weekly survivor pool analyst keeps you in the game. Take the NFL season to the next level and download the Elias Game Plan app today. Choose from 3 game plans when you subscribe weekly, monthly, or annual. But I can get you 25% off your first month when you choose the monthly subscription. Just use our promo code SGPN25. Find Elias Game Plan sports betting app in the App Store or Play Store today and use my promo code SGPN25. That's 20% off your shipping at. You also get 20% off your free shipping at manscaped.com and use our promo code SGP. It's time you level up from the Amazon to the Armadog. Oh man, there was a joke there that I missed. The Amadong. I think that's a sexual innuendo joke there from our SGPN ad guys with the ultimate bushwhacking tools from Manscaped. No house advantage is changing the game by offering the most dynamic fantasy sports platform available today. Play in pick'em contests versus other people for the shot at winning $250K plus in cash. Download the app, choose the contest, select your player props, earn points for correct picks, and climb the leaderboard for your shot to win big money every day. You can also test your skills versus the house and 20 times your entry if you hit all your picks. Bet on Bet on up to 5 player props, over-unders, or individual player matchups across every single major sports league, including the NFL, NBA, MLB, PGA, MMA, and NASCAR. Sign up now with promo code SGPN at No House Advantage, or download the app to get a first deposit match up to $25. See, that's why they need to tell me when they throw stuff in there like that. I couldn't even pronounce what he was trying to say. But yeah, you know what? I think every fantasy football podcast has been brought to you by Manscaped at some point. So trim yourself up down there, guys. Jumping into the underdog stuff. I just wanted to jump into some of our favorite game stacks for the week to start off with. Starting off with one I really liked because I wouldn't have really thought about, I like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be electric, but this wasn't one that was super on my radar until I saw the over under of 48. They actually Vegas does expect Atlanta to have a few points this week. And I think, the over under is 48. You got some great GPP plays on Atlanta, like Drake London, Kyle Pitts, even, those are the type, with the struggle. Actually, well, Kyle Pitts is out. I'm sorry. He's officially got declared out. So no Kyle Pitts, but Drake London, Tyler Algier is a nice chalk play, especially at his cheap price. What are your feelings on this game? Do you think you can kind of hit that over? Do you think Atlanta will find some success, especially maybe if they get down or just flinging the ball around?
I want to say yes, because this Tampa Bay secondary is not good. And the corners aren't playing well. The safeties are better tacklers than they are in coverage, and it's showing. So I want to I have a lot of Tyler Algier. I do a lot of pre-draft type of things, and I was such a big fan of Tyler Algier. Just when we slipped to day 3, I want to play him, but that Tampa D line is always a little bit scary. But as for the secondary, it comes down to what you can get from Marcus Mariota. Are we going to get week 4, or are we going to get semblances of what we saw in the years past or weeks past? Because 16 passes, completing 6 of them, is not going to get done for anyone for fantasy. I do think it bounces out a bit. I don't think we're going to see colossally bad Mariota. And if I'm going to play anyway, I do like the value on Drake London, because Drake London has shown that he has some upside that we didn't think was possible in this Atlanta offense. He's put up a 20-point week in just a 4-week span as a rookie with Mariota, and I have to believe Arthur Smith takes one step back from his ground and pound mantra and says, "Listen, we're not going to run the ball 30 times against the Bucs." Is there? Maybe I'm giving Arthur Smith too much credit, but I do like attacking the Atlanta passing game that nobody wants to attack right now.
That I don't disagree with you. I don't. I think that it's a nice buy low opportunity, especially guys like Drake London, Kyle Pitts. Even these guys. I especially love them in dynasty leagues because I know that they're going to have some boom bust performances this year, which will keep down their fantasy value. But man, I really do like them going forward, and I think once they do get a quarterback in 2023, they'll be fantastic. I don't think Kyle Pitts has lost it. I think we just need a quarterback in there who's willing to throw him the ball, and a coach that's willing to draw up some plays for him as well. That one's another obvious one, but this one is probably the biggest one of the week. So you might have to find ways to get unique here. It's the Philadelphia Arizona game. The over/unders at 48.5. It's like I said, very chalk. But I do love the players in it. I do love Kyler Murray. It's more in fantasy than even in real life. It's almost like a tale of two worlds. It's like they have one of the worst one of the worst expected points per play on the first half, and then one of the best in the second half. So Murray's number 1 in passing attempts, number 2 in true accuracy rating, but only 22.8 rushing yards per game, which is a little bit interesting. He just doesn't seem to, he seems to be just committed to throwing the ball and kind of taking that rushing aspect out of the side a little bit. You have some, other than, we love both, especially the Philadelphia Eagles are fantastic. We love that offense, but you just have any, maybe some sleepers for this game, or just maybe how you're attacking this game exactly?
If you want a super deep sleeper, Philadelphia been susceptible to the tight end, so a lot of people I think Eckert's a good week. Trey McBride, not really counting on a rookie, but he did see his biggest bump in playing time this past week, as he's seen all season. Plays season high 32. I don't really want to chase it because it's still a 3-man type of rotation in terms of Ertz as the guy, and then they have Max Williams as a blocker in there as well. But I mean, Rondell Moore, I don't like Rondell Moore. I never liked him as a prospect. Honestly, I thought his size was going to hold him back, and that's kind of what's happened so far. So, but that said, he completely, his return completely sent Greg Dortch to the bench. Like, gone, gone, non-existent. And Devontae Maddox, coming off an ankle injury, it might be a slot type of play that you can target. Rondell Moore, somebody that is going to get snaps, somebody that can make his week in one day in a high-scoring game. I chalk up every single Eagle as someone I want to play. So that's why I'm not even going to touch on him, because I will play and draft every single Eagle. So I think Rondell Moore might be an interesting, deeper target, just because we want pieces in a high-scoring offense that can do stuff with the ball in their hands. And I mean, they want him to be that, which is why he got the snaps last week.
Yeah, and like you said, everybody in this Philadelphia offense is fantastic. AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts are, must starts, top 5 wide receiver, locked in, top 2-3 quarterback every single week. I even Devontae Smith. I think he's fantastic. I think I like him better than Dallas Goedert in this offense, and I think he has a chance to really be the number 2. I think Dallas Goedert can be a little bit boom or bust. But yeah, Jalen Hurts really has exceeded my expectations as a passer. I did wonder if he would be able to maintain the fantasy value of all of these guys. So that is that's been fantastic to see. And one of my guys this week is Zach Ertz. Just with Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce off the main slate of games this week, when you're in your underdog drafts, I don't know if you know about the you're probably not familiar with the battle royale setup. It's a 6-man draft that has 6 rounds. You pick 6 players, so not too deep, and but yeah, so 36 picks total, and just covers the main slate of games. It's like their version of DFS. It's
right.
Without the salary. But yeah, Zach Ertz is going in like that 3rd, 4th round range, and I think he can have a real production premium this week. He's number 1 in routes run, number 4 in fantasy points per game, number 4 in targets for the tight end position. He's and with Kyler Murray throwing as much as he is, I think he has a ton of touchdown upside this week. So I'm putting Zach Ertz in a lot of lineups this week. And, one of the sneaky ones that I had here, I just thought that nobody would really be paying attention to it, was the Detroit-New England game. I just thought that Detroit Lions aren't going to play a lot of defense. The Detroit offense is very good. So not that there's a ton of New England like wide receivers I want to put in this, but I just think that, getting Goff, a wide receiver option, and then maybe getting some Ramondre Stevenson coming back, I think, especially with maybe playing in a negative game strip, I think Ramondre Stevenson might get a lot of targets. Do you think that New England will be able to generate any success with is it Zap or Zappy? I've heard both.
I've heard Zappy more than I've heard Zap, but I truthfully can't tell you for sure. Yeah.
The most confident people I've talked to say Zap, but like the commentators on TV and everybody else says Zappy. So I think it might be Zappy, but I haven't quite confirmed that yet, even after a week. So I do apologize about that.
I've been calling Romeo Dubs, the wrong name for all off season. So you're definitely not alone with the name mispronunciations. But Detroit is what, 1st in points scored, but they have 1 win, and I pour it out for them because it's no fun right there. But Swift, I'm expecting Swift to miss another week. You could easily fire up Jamal Williams as a borderline RB1. I think just purely based on volume, based on how this offense is going to move the ball. But as wide receivers, I think Amon-Ra, we're going to expect him to miss another week. He hasn't practiced yet this week with the ankle, and that's a big deal. I thought Detroit would crash down without him, truthfully, last week, and Hawkinson took up the mantle. They'll get Chark back this week. Josh Reynolds will be still around. And they're going to also lose Quintus Cephas as another depth piece. So much emphasis is going to be on those top guys. And I think we can't help but say we want pieces of Detroit, right? I mean, they're going to put up points. I think at this point we kind of have to accept it. And the Patriots defense has not been anything special. They are in Foxborough, but I'm not going to discount anyone for that. So I think Chark is shaping up to be the wide receiver 1 for what is the highest scoring offense in the NFL. And Chark is not a garbage wide receiver. This isn't just elevating the next guy up. Chark is a fine wide receiver. He's not special, but he's fine. And I think you can easily get him at, he can fill in for your 6th round draft at the end there. I mean, taking a chance of being the highest scorer for the highest scoring offense.
That's not a bad way to get unique, because his ADP is probably a little bit past that. So,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
I mean, not a ton of people will be picking him up there. That's a good pick. I'm worried about Josh Reynolds a little bit on his heels, though. Josh Reynolds has been good too, though. But I'll tell you, there could be room for both of them this week. There's no Swift. There's, you know, Amon-Ra St. Brown. You know, I know he hasn't practiced, so that's probably puts him out. I don't know if there was an official designation yet, but yeah, I would expect him not to play this weekend. So, like you said, fire those guys up. And yeah, like I said, I really like Ramondre Stevenson. This could be a good Ramondre Stevenson week. You know, Detroit has scored the most, but they've also allowed the most points in the league, and that's why they've scored one game. So Ramondre Stevenson, I think, could have a big week this week, especially if Zappy just is dumping it off to him. So I like that pick a lot. Just going on to some of my favorite value picks here. Pull up my list here. Or no, I guess I have my game stacks here. You know, just because you have Allen and you have Allen and Stephon Diggs both going in the first round. You know, if you do 100 drafts, there might be one in a miracle situation. You can stack Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs together, but it's probably not going to happen. In that 6-man draft, they're probably going to go in your first 6 pick. Allen and Davis. You know, I just think that, man, I know it's one of those things that, you know, I'm always chasing that guy who hasn't been playing well in GPP. So Davis is somebody that is just massively underperformed so far, 11.8% target share so far, but he has a 97.7% route participation. So I just he is running the routes. He's just not getting targeted. And I don't quite understand it. I do think he was overdrafted a bit this year, but I do think he can read. But what are your thoughts on Gabriel Davis? Do you think, we're going to see a big improvement going forward?
I want to, but I don't think we will. I mean, I think Josh Allen and the Bills are a high scoring team, and that's going to work for Gabe Davis some weeks. But the target share, like you just brought up, that 11 point under 12%, that's not good enough. That's just not. And it's something that he's done. This is what Gabe Davis was last year. It's what he was the year before that. It's not commanding target share, but he flashes with the touchdowns, and we want that upside. But the guy that I'm stacking happily and very confidently that I think he's a plug and play almost every week now is Isaiah Mckenzie. A guy that saw six or more targets each of the last 2 weeks, 9 and then 6. Jameson Crowder is now out with a foot injury, broke his foot. That's another slot element that's now out the door. And McKenzie's getting touchdowns. He has 3 touchdowns in 4 weeks. So I'm not going to say that he's a touchdown guy. He's a small slot guy. They're a little bit fluky. And the ones that he scored aren't long ones either, which he can rip off. But he's just finding them in the red zone. So I want to play Mckenzie right now. And the snaps have been around. Oh, he's done all that on 50% of snaps. Pretty much every single week he's at 50%. That can jump now with Jameson Crowder out of the loop. I really think it can, and I think it will. And now if Dawson Knox is also out, I haven't checked his injury since Wednesday. I know he missed Wednesday with an injury. But that's another person that also took the occasional slot snap that's also going to be out of the picture. So I'll fire up Isaiah Mckenzie easily against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That I don't think the Steelers have a slot corner that can cover him.
I like that. I really like that. You know, I love Mckenzie in my DraftKings weekend, but you know, in Underdog, there's only 36 players drafted. It's a little shallow for Mckenzie, I think. You know, maybe get him once, because you know what if he breaks off a 70-yard touchdown? You know what I mean, in this offense. So maybe share Mckenzie. You know, it's a little shallow for me. You know, I don't like to get too cute with these lineups, because you know it's usually, unfortunately, the way that this Underdog kind of battle royale is set up. It's just like you have to hit the perfect quarterback wide receiver combo every week. That's pretty much been the winner every single week. And I saw the last guy who won the big $50,000 prize last week. He didn't have a single stack on his team. He just took the best player available. And it wasn't like a crazy lineup where it's like, oh man, this would never happen. You know what I mean? It was just like, you know, just a great pick in each round that just ended up killing it. So, you know, you don't have to end up stacking in the Underdog DFS like you do on the DraftKings slate, but it still is important. You know, that week 1, it was Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. That was every single winner. And, you know, it's been like that most weeks here. This past week was a little bit interesting. And then, of course, the next one here, and, you know, so another thing I was going to tell you is that there's only 6 quarterbacks drafted too. So, you kind of have to, it's a little bit different. So you kind of have to, that's the only allowable quarterbacks drafted. So, you're kind of picking for elite quarterback stacks. Otherwise, it's just, well, I didn't get a stack. But the next one I had here was Brady and Evans or Godwin. That one is obtainable. Brady and Evans will be very popular though. So I like the Brady and Chris Godwin stack this week. Chris Godwin did, I believe, have 10 targets in the last week. And he was struggling coming back from an injury. He went down a couple times again, but he's appears to be on track to play this week. And I just think we're going to see he's going to get better and better as he gets more return from that ACL. Do you think, Tom, how do you feel about the Bucs wide receiver core going forward? Do you think that they're going to continue the success that they had last year?
I don't think we're going to see what we got last year because I think there's just been a lot of changes to this unit. The offensive line's, worse. The new coordinator in terms of Bruce Arians is now gone. Tom Brady is not dust. I'm never going to say that because I'm always wrong, but he's not slinging it like he was last year. But Chris Godwin I do like that. Chris Godwin would be my play over Mike Evans just because I think you can get him probably around later type of thing. Just because Mike Evans blew up last week, Chris Godwin did not. But in his first game back, he jumped back to 83% snaps. That will probably rise even more once he's fully healthy. But the difference was he only saw 6 yards per target last week. That's not the norm for him. He's normally around that 10 range, and that's a big change in value. So I think he could definitely the other way. Chris Godwin has 3 or 4 touchdowns too. He didn't fight it last week, and that's why you were a little bit, met with his return. But I mean, everything indicates that the Tampa's going to have their way with this unit. The Tampa's going to be able to move the ball, and Chris Godwin saw the target share. He just didn't see the touchdowns, and he's done that before. So I just like it all to come together this week as well. I like that stack a lot.
Yeah, it's Tom Brady. I figured he was going to get it together at some point here. He just seems to be a little bit. You trust Tom Brady even in his older age to overcome this type of stuff more than you trust Russell Wilson at this point. So, yeah, it's a little bit crazy, but I expect Leonard Fournette to have a big week. I actually I'm thinking about in my cash game lineup for DraftKings this week. I'm thinking about just putting Leonard Fournette and Tom Brady in there. I think that they can both succeed in this 48 over under. There's going to be some scoring. I think Tom Brady's going to throw it a lot to Leonard Fournette. I normally would never stack in a cash game, particularly stack a running back and a quarterback together, but I think both those guys are super safe options for the week.
The dump downs are real in Tampa right now. I mean, Rachaad White caught 7 balls last week. Leonard cost 7 balls last week. I think we all talk about Rachaad White, as a popular waiver pickup if you were available in your leagues for normal formats. But Leonard Fournette still gets that work too. And I mean, if they're able to move the ball, if the passing game opens up lanes for the rushing attack, which hasn't happened yet, Leonard Fournette, I mean, he's still the workhorse for that team.
Yeah, I completely. It was a weird game last week against my Chiefs.
It was.
The Chiefs actually have a pretty good run defense, and Leonard Fournette was just bottled up a little bit, and they were seeing what they could do with Rachaad White. I don't expect that to continue. I think White will have a role in this backfield, but I do think you'll see Fournette get the bulk of the carries, at least for this year. This is another one. Hurts and AJ Brown in the Underdog Battle Royale this week won't be obtainable. That'll be, if you do 100 drafts, and you might get it one time, and that's great. Go for it. Get it if you can. Absolutely. But I didn't even put that down just because I don't really think that that's realistic. So I do have Hurts with Smith and Goddard. I did say that I preferred Smith to Goddard, but I do think a breakout's coming. Goddard's going to have some big weeks this year, and this is the game to do it against Arizona. I think it's going to be high flying. Arizona, they could get down big to start off with, but we know that Arizona is going to come roaring back in the second half when it's just Kyler Murray flinging the football, and we're not depending on Cliff Kingsbury to create an offensive game plan. It's just go out there, Kyler Murray, and throw that ball. So I do think that Smith and Goddard could have some big value this week. Devontae Smith is a kind of a boom or bust kind of guy, and I think this could be that big week for him. So that's a super popular one. Is there any sneaky options that you think, maybe Miles, you think this could be a Miles Sanders week, Kes Watkins, any other guys I'm forgetting about?
If I'm going super deep, I don't think so. In terms of, I think you got that on the hit on the head. But I mean, Dallas Goedert, I like that as well because I mean we're only 4 weeks in. The Cardinals have faced guys like the Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, Higbee, and the Panthers who don't have a tight end, but they're still allowing 16 and a half fantasy points per game to the tight end. That's the second most in football right now. So in theory, that's a smash matchup for Dallas Goedert. In terms of this is as good of a situation as you can get in a high-scoring game against a defense that doesn't know how to guard the tight end with a good offense, with a good tight end. So I definitely think Dallas Goedert's in for a good week.
Yeah, and then I just had a couple things on Smith here. 22.9% target share and 100% route participation. If you would have told us that before the year, I think we would have been signing me up for Devontae Smith. We've talked about Murray and Brown and Ertz a lot, so I'll skip past that one. But another one that I think just kind of getting lost in the wayside a little bit, just because Herbert and hasn't had quite, he's leading the NFL in passing yards, but the offense just hasn't quite clicked. They haven't been dominant like we thought they would be. But yeah, I really like Herbert in either Williams or Everett, and then maybe bringing it back even with Nick Chubb, which is possible. Nick Chubb kind of has that borderline first round ADP. So if you have that first pick in the draft, you can draft Justin Herbert, and then you might have a draft or two where Nick Chubb comes back in there. So I would definitely want to get that. But yeah, Williams or Everett, I think a great stacking option. It does appear that Keenan Allen is going to miss yet another week this week. So Williams has been very inconsistent, but he is very talented, and I do think that he could find some success this week. How do you feel about this game?
I think that what you said before about Tom Brady and Leonard Fournette being a rare stack, I think you can do that with Austin Eckler if he goes late enough in your draft, so you can maybe come around with that. Because when Keenan Allen is out, Austin Eckler typically he averages about 6 targets per game, which in addition to everything else he does, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And the touchdowns haven't come from outside of last week, and then that wheel kind of shook loose. I think he could definitely shake loose again this week. And I mean, the Chargers are a good offense. We're kind of expecting them to score those points. And Mike Williams, totally fine with that as well. Everett, totally fine with that as well, because Everett has got it done for them. And I'm so happy that he is. I think I have him as a top 5 tight end this week because I just like the matchup as well. So I guess based on saying he's a top 5 tight end, he's probably the best value of the bunch. If you're going to go a little bit cheaper there, wait a couple rounds, especially at tight end where, we like you said, we have Kelsey and Andrews out of the main slate. So we're chasing for those other names. And I think Everett could shape up to be that best value for you.
Yeah, and I just think that it actually works in the favor of the Chargers' fantasy sake that they're not quite as good. I do think that Cleveland could keep it competitive this week, especially if they're able to get Nick Chubb going and control the game clock. So I do think that will keep Herbert in it and be throwing the ball. So I think this could be a big week for him. Before I jump into the Underdog Best Ball Resurrection Draft, which is super fun, I'm going to do my final ad read here. It's crazy that so many of us enjoy the finer things in life, and so many of us settle for coffee every day. With Trade Coffee, you can start every morning with something special. Let me tell you about Trade Coffee. It's a coffee subscription service unlike anything you've tried before. Because they partner with top independent roasters to freshly roast and send the best coffee in the country direct to your home on your preferred schedule. Their team of experts do all the work, taste testing hundreds of coffees from across the U.S. every month to curate over 450 exceptional coffees that make the cut. The coffee I get from Trade is so good. I can't believe how much I like when they picked it out for me. And their team actually worked with me to create my own custom collection, which is great for me because if you're like and want coffee to taste great, go out and check the collection from Trade. And if what I got isn't up your alley, don't worry. Trade will have whatever it is you want. You can shop their most popular coffees by roast or flavor profile, or you can take their coffee quiz and get expertly matched with your coffees that you will love. Trade is the easiest way to get your very best tasting coffee delivered fresh when you need it. So if you want to support small business and brew the best cup of coffee you've ever made at home, it's time to try Trade Coffee right now. Trade is offering our listeners a total of $30 off your first order plus free shipping at drinktrade.com/SGP. That's drinktrade.com/SGP for $30 off your subscription to the best coffees in the country. Odds Trader is fantastic as well. Odds Trader is a place to compare odds from all major sportsbooks. You can also compare the different sign-up codes and promotions from sportsbooks to get the best deal. The app also provides player statistics, key game stats, injury reports, and projected game day weather for bettors to make the most informed bets possible. Some of these key points and features include handicapping, play-by-play updates, live scores and bet tracking, and player statistics. Go to oddstrader.com/bluewire. OddsTrader, the #1 site for all your game day bets. and they wanted me to throw all these. I was like, unfortunately, guys, I have not had a chance to get trade coffee yet. So I was having struggle to read that because they were like, oh, tell me about your experience. I was like, well, okay, I'm going to do it today. I'm ordering myself some trade coffee today, and you should as well.
For the next show,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. I will have a real story for the next show. Okay, I promise.
That's a whole reason to tune in right there.
But all right, let's jump into the underdog best ball stuff here. So I kind of explained it to you. It is just a best ball tournament, season long tournament that is starting in week 6. Actually, they call it resurrection because it's kind of coming up from the dead. You know what I mean? So it's kind of cool. So that will start after this week. So this will actually be the final show that we'll get a chance to talk about it before it closes up next Thursday night. So, and this is 12 team, it's an 18 round draft. And like I said, it's best ball. So, your best players get slotted in every week. And I've been having a ton of fun doing these drafts. And I just wanted to hear your thoughts on some of my value picks here. So the quarterbacks have had a massive shift. Like we had Josh Allen as like the late 3rd round pick, and then, kind of fell down, maybe Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes were in the 4th and 5th round, and then Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray were in like that 6th round range. And now we've seen a big shift. It's smaller lineups. It's a 3 wide receiver, 2 running back, 1 flex. So it's not massive. So the quarterbacks have gone way up here, just considering, how much they've scored this year. Jalen Hurts had an ADP of 15.8, and I've said, sign me up. I just think he gives, especially in a half PPR and a smaller lineup, I think he just has a huge value. I think, he can be a big portion of your scoring every single week. Do you think that's crazy? Do you think that we should still be getting those wide receivers and running backs there? Or do you think that's accurate?
I think at this point of the year, I think it's the right approach. I think listen, I think everyone in this industry preaches be flexible. Some variation, some trade secret are saying be flexible. And I think this year is shaping up to be an outlier for quarterbacks. I hope it pays out well next year. But like the normal streamers are typically not hitting. They're not doing great. And it doesn't at all compare to the top tier guys of the Jalen Hurts, the Josh Allens, the Patrick Mahomes of the world. So I'm completely on board. And then even, you're talking about it's the resurrection draft. So, right, you want to make that round 2. So you have a whole 6 round window, and, that schedule, facing Steelers, Texans, Commanders, Colts, Packers, like Titans. It's a very good stretch of matchups as well for a quarterback that is matchup proof. So I very much, I'm all for it. I think it's at this point for 2021 or 2022, we have to, I think the quarterbacks, if we could redraft now, which is what you're doing, we would be taking them earlier. So I completely agree.
Yeah, it's just, maybe if the lineups were a little bit deeper, I would pivot off that a little bit. But yeah, just he makes up such a significant portion of your weekly scoring. I'm fine taking him there. Kyler Murray at 43.6. I just think, like I said, you can critique Kyler Murray's play in the real NFL. He's inconsistent. He plays his best from way behind, but we don't score that in fantasy. So I just think he's leading the NFL in pass attempts. He's on a ridiculous pace. It's like 700. I'm not gonna get the exact number, but it's like 723 passes that he's on pace for. It's something silly. It's in the well into the 700s. So I think staying at 43.6. I think that they're going to be struggling. Cliff Kingsbury's not going to put them in too many positions to succeed. So I think you're going to see Kyler Murray flinging this ball around this year. Do you have any concerns about Kyler Murray going forward?
No, and I mean I looked it up for you. He's on pace for 735 attempts, which is a NFL record if that continues. Yeah. And the important distinction, I think there's 2 of them, is that it's 3. Kyler runs, so that helps as well. And I know he hasn't done it much this year, but he does it normally, so that could get back as well. That's regression metric right there. 2, Cliff is coaching for his job. So he's throwing everything out there, because I think if they don't make the playoffs this year, Cliff could be gone, and God willing he is. 3, D-Hop's not even back. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins will be back in week 6, and who knows what he'll be, but they don't have. I mean, AJ Green's dust, and they need someone else out wide. So that's a huge boost to this offense. Of Zach Ertz, Marquise Brown, DeAndre Hopkins is a really, really good core, and that's gonna start up in week 6. So all 4 buying the dip right now for sure.
Yeah, I think Kyler Murray, I think it's in his range of outcomes to still finish as the quarterback one this season just because of what he's doing. He's going to have to rush the ball more to do that, and that might not happen. I'm not saying it's likely, but it's in his range of outcomes, so that's why sign me up. Uh, I did put this down before last night's game. It hasn't really deterred me, but I do still like Cortland Sutton's ADP at 32.5. Not as quite as much as I did yesterday when I was filling this out, just because that was such a horrible game. But he's just getting so many targets. It's just like the only thing missing is the touchdowns and like a more efficient offense. If Russell Wilson could get him at like more of like a 60-70% catch rate, like unlike last night, and get a touchdown here or there, this guy's going to be big time. And yeah, I really like Cortland Sutton this year. I was a Jerry Jeudy guy. I thought Jerry Jeudy would be good. I'm starting to lose faith only because of the Russell Wilson. Cortland Sutton is the preferred option. That's clear. And Jerry Jeudy is the clear number 2. I thought he would be able to support 2 wide receivers though. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. Even if this offense struggles though, I do think Cortland Sutton will find success. Do you think? Do you think he's going to have any problems if this offense doesn't get any better? Besides the obvious touchdowns that we talked about before?
I think it can. I think it's going to bounce back for him, and I also think for Jeudy. I'll toss this out to you because obviously you see the game, and these are big ifs. But Jeudy was wide open on the touchdown or on the interception that he threw to Stephon Gilmore that led the Colts to drive downfield. Wide open, could have been a walking touchdown, and about a couple drives before, Russ just missed him on a 30-yard would have been touchdown too. So, and Cortland Sutton's big 50-yard catch came when the ref laid out one of the Colts safeties. So, a bit of a fluke last night, but I do think it all gets back on track. And I was so frustrated seeing this because Denver frustrates me so much. But Denver I don't like reading into schedules, but we have 4 weeks to read into it. The Chargers are a beatable secondary. The Jets are a beatable secondary. Jaguars, Titans, Raiders, Panthers. That's Baltimore, Chiefs. Those are all the next games coming up. And I will confidently fire up Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton every single one of those lineups. So, yeah, I mean, it's a thing where they have to get better. We are seeing the bottom out of it. I think we have to be seeing it. And eventually, I wouldn't rule out a midseason Nathaniel Hackett firing, which will give a boost to this offense because we see that normally when head coaches get fired, we see a small boost the next week for the entire team rallying behind the new guy. And Hackett's also a detriment. So I'm hoping that bounce also comes, but I definitely support buying into. I'll still buy into either of the Denver guys right now.
I'm glad you're making me feel a little better about Jerry Jeudy. Man, it's been tough. I was such a truther coming out of college. I had so much Jerry Jeudy. And I had so much Jerry Jeudy in my dynasty leagues, and it's just been a roller coaster. And I've been putting him in my lineups this year, and it's not good. It hasn't gotten. Besides that, I was so happy week 1 when he had that great performance. I was like, yes, here we are. This is how it's going to be.
Then he got hurt.
And then he got hurt, and then just the Denver struggling offense is preventing him.
He did have another drop last night. I will tell you that.
That's well, that's fine because people just hate Jerry. I don't know why people hate Jerry Jeudy. Like it's just like they just like you just listen to these podcasts. I love Matt Kelly. I love Matt Kelly. He's like my favorite person to listen to, and he just rips on him all the time. Just like, Matt Kelly, stop, please.
I have the same with all my analytic type of friends because a lot of them are just, I love the route running. I do.
Do they not care about target? Do they not care about separation? Do they not care about separation?
I get it. I get it. I get that there's metrics to support it, but he's good. He gets it done when he's out there. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna keep. I'm just gonna ride or die with this ship. So I'm gonna keep behind.
Man.
I have Brian Robinson here at 111.2 ADP, and I was telling people to avoid. I was just like, I didn't want to project a 3rd round pick coming back from a gunshot injury to find success. But Antonio Gibson just hasn't done anything really. He had some success like the first week or 2, but he's slowing down, and I just think that they're just going to let this guy, give him an opportunity to lead this backfield. I don't know if it'll happen right off the bat. He might have to work himself back into game shape. I'm sure he hasn't. He's had to slow his conditioning a little bit since the injury. So I'm really happy to have him back. That's just guy has perseverance. He's 3rd round pick, immediate starter. and then he comes back from a gunshot injury less than, I think, about 6 weeks later. So kudos to him. How do you feel about Brian Robinson the rest of the season?
I mean, you can't help but root for him, right? I mean, after everything he went through, it's terrible, and I'm so glad he's okay. He's out there. I wasn't like I have to be analytical about it. I wasn't a huge fan of him coming out of being the older back in Bama who didn't really do anything, then didn't dominate really even at that when he finally got out there. But the one thing I can argue with is that Ron Rivera likes him, and this entire Washington team is behind him right now. And you can't say that about Antonio Gibson. So I think Washington's looking for a spark, and I think that can come in the form of Brian Robinson, and in forms of the same thing I view about Dameon Pierce. I don't think Dameon Pierce is that good, but he has the trust of his coaching staff, and I think that can also swing this way for Washington. Again, like you said, I don't think that happens this week. I'm not going to play him this week. And we've also never seen really someone coming off of a gunshot wound, so I don't really quite know what to expect for that either. But I expect him to be okay. And I think this is a real week 6 type of thing. So I think for the resurrection draft and for his role continuing to increase, I do like his role because Washington is a team without hope right now. And like they started strong and they have flamed out very quickly, and they need someone to rally behind. And Brian Robinson has that locker room pushing right now.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I just love, I just love to get a chance to draft this guy because I think, like I said, could be a the kind of overused term, the league winner, just because he just hasn't played yet, and he hasn't shown us what he can do, but unfortunately Antonio Gibson has shown us that. So I do like Brian Robinson, and Alan Lazard is somebody I can't get out. I was, this is me maybe just coming off my my preseason takes here, but I know he missed that first week. Kind of slow returning, just not very many passes, just caught a touchdown pass, and that's all he did for a couple weeks there. But this is the game he broke out. He had, over 100 yards receiving, and I just think this is the wide receiver one for the Green Bay Packers going forward. And I think at the ADP of 74.4, I still think it's a steal. I know he's not that. I get it. He's not like the most talented guy in the world. I understand that, but he's been in the offense a while, has chemistry with Aaron Rodgers, and we're talking about 10 or 11 weeks here. Where I'm not telling you to go out and draft and acquire Alan Lazard in your dynasty leagues for an expensive price or anything like that. But in season-long formats, I do think he's going to have a big rest of the season. How do you feel?
I think it's just going to be tough to predict. And I think we could say that for a lot of run-heavy teams, because that's what the Packers are, right? They're going to run it down your throat, and they're going to try to win with the defense. They're going to try to win with A.J. Dillon's quads, and Aaron Jones is just excellent. So at that point, it comes down to, I don't think we can count on 100-yard days with Alan Lazard. I mean, that's not really who he is. But the touchdowns are what I'm more interested in. He scored 2 in 3 games. So that's what Aaron Rodgers does well. They do give him the chance to sling it in the red zone because he's Aaron Rodgers, and he trusts Alan Lazard. So I think some of those weeks are going to be really good. And I just think some of them are going to be really bad. And it's going to be very difficult to predict which. So I think it's going to be very matchup-based. And Green Bay is off to a pretty good matchup-based type of thing. Chicago secondary is not good. Tampa secondary is really bad. And New England secondary is not that challenging either. So we'll see how that all evolves. And Romeo Dobbs as well. Romeo Dobbs. I got that right this time. Wait, did I? I don't even know if I did. But he's continued to emerge himself as well, and I think he's a quality player. So I think you're going to see some alternating weeks between them, just because it's a very run-heavy team.
Well, where we don't mind boom and bust quite as much as in best ball. So
that's also entirely true, and it slipped my mind for a second there as I went back to my roots there. But that is, that's a very good point that I should have been thinking about from the start. So I mean, get a piece of Aaron Rodgers. Why not, right?
So yeah, I do agree with you. He might have some down weeks, but I do think we're going to see some big weeks down the stretch here, and I'm fine with him at his ADP. Just because we're out of time, I'm going to hit you with one more here. I just can't believe he's not getting a little bit more respect, especially just considering how desolate, how awful the tight end landscape. Pat Freiermuth at 106.3, he's the tight end 10 or 11 still. That doesn't make much sense to me, especially given the struggles. I don't know. I might take him over George Kittle going forward. What are your thoughts?
I mean, we saw. I think what I'm really interested in is this past week. I mean, we finally saw over the season that Mitch and Matt Canada were not looking at all in the middle of the field. Pat Freiermuth is not getting the ball because the looks just weren't there. They were looking out wide. And that shifted with Pickett. And I think we see with rookie quarterbacks a lot that rookie quarterbacks target their big safety valve tight end. And that's Freiermuth. That's George Pickens, the big guys. And Chase Claypool is not long for this offense based on how he's playing. So I'm a Steeler fan as well, full disclosure. So me and Chase Claypool have a long and up and down history, like a bad ex-girlfriend type of thing. So I agree that Pat Freiermuth is going to be I think he's going to be a higher floor player than people think. The Steelers are a really bad football team, so they're going to be in a lot of good game scripts. And they're also not going to be blown out of too many games. I really don't think they will be because the defense is still going to be okay enough, and TJ Watt will eventually get back. So that's going to keep them competitive. That's going to keep the ball moving, and Pickett is going to look for his tight end. So I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I love it. Pat Freiermuth, I just don't get it, especially like with how bad some of these tight ends are playing. And man, I know Gerald Everett is like having a big year. I just can't. I can't. Maybe it's kind of probably people's beef with Alan Lazard. I'm not taking Gerald Everett over Pat Freiermuth. I get
24% target share. That's what Freiermuth's got.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fifth in the NFL. He's fifth in targets. He's sixth in target rate. I mean, he's 11th. He's 13th in route runs, which he's being used as a blocker a bit right there, but that's totally fine. Like he's an every down player. So I don't get it either. I think maybe he's too boring for people because I don't think he has top 3 upside. But
yeah, I mean, he's not. Yeah. He doesn't have like that just crazy athletic ability where he's just going to be streaking down the field for touchdowns. I agree, but yeah, just a real safe guy. Man, I've been actually. I think he's my highest drafted tight end so far, just because I love him at that tight end. He's in like round 10, tight end 10 or 11. Like I said, I think that's great value. But that is it. Thanks so much for joining us, Michael. What you want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing in the future, where we can find some of your stuff?
Sure. I do a lot of my stuff at IDP Guys. It's IDP Guys on Twitter. I run the newsletter there. So it's a defensive fantasy newsletter. Comes out every single week, every single Wednesday morning. So that's what I do in addition to a waiver wire show on Tuesday. But just IDP scares a lot of people because it's exposing to a whole other side of the ball. And I know it's scary. This is my first year myself even doing it. In a game, it makes last night game fun. And that's the best selling point I could do because last night was horrific for every offensive player. For defensive players, for Josie Jewell, who then left halfway through the game, which was just so sad to see, it was great. It was a really fun game to watch because you got to see your fantasy players thrive. So, you get all the best information with really fun talk in our Discord channels at IDP Guys. So I really encourage people to at least check out the link in my bio. The Twitter handle's right there, at Michaels__Sicoli on Twitter. Subscribe to the newsletter. You just get a taste of what we're about at least. So, yeah, I appreciate having me on, Emerson. I really do. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's super fun. Hey, next year, I haven't done any IDP myself. Next year, when you're starting up some drafts, think about the guy here. I'd like to get started. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll hit you up. Man. I'm gonna do a lot more myself next year as well.
But yeah, I know you're a busy college man. I'll let you go here, but hey, thanks for coming on. Thank you everybody for listening, and have a great rest of your weekend. Okay, enjoy football.